When Keanu Reeves steps onto Vanessa Cross's talk show, the audience expects another one of his heartfelt, inspiring interviews. But Vanessa isn't interested in inspiration. She wants to challenge, provoke, and push the actor into his most vulnerable state yet. As Keanu takes his seat, something feels off. Vanessa clutches her cue cards with a knowing smile. What was meant to be a calm, insightful conversation is teetering on the edge of something much bigger. But what Vanessa doesn't realize is that, in just a few minutes, she won't be the one in control. She will be the one left speechless, because what Keanu is about to say will change everything, and no one in that audience will ever forget it. Before we dive into this unforgettable moment, let us know where you're watching from, and if you love stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another incredible story coming your way. The studio is packed. The bright stage lights cast an intense glow, illuminating the grand set. At the heart of the vast auditorium, the audience hums with anticipation, some holding up colorful signs that read, "Keanu, you are our hero, and thank you for being you." The movement of cameras and crew behind the scenes signals that the long-awaited moment is finally here. A silent countdown flashes across the monitors. The spotlights shift, casting a cinematic aura over the unfolding scene. Then he appears. Keanu Reeves walks onto the stage with quiet confidence, his steps measured and unhurried. There's something about his presence, a magnetism that feels effortless. He isn't like other Hollywood stars. Dressed in a simple black shirt, a modest blazer, and well-worn jeans, he exudes an authenticity that sets him apart. His dark hair falls just over his shoulders, and a gentle smile plays on his lips. The audience erupts. Cheers fill the room, some calling his name, others simply watching in admiration. There's an undeniable calm about him, a warmth that disarms those around him. He raises a hand in a humble gesture of thanks before settling into his seat, adjusting with ease. The atmosphere vibrates with a mix of excitement and reverence. On the opposite side of the table sits Vanessa Cross, her posture rigid, her presence commanding. A renowned journalist known for her sharp, incisive interviews, she has built a reputation for extracting uncomfortable truths, sometimes dismantling reputations in the process. Dressed in a tailored blazer, her hair pulled into a flawless updo, she grips a stack of question cards, her expression analytical, almost predatory. A slow, deliberate smirk crosses her lips, a fusion of professionalism and challenge. She studies Keanu for a moment before leaning forward, her voice crisp and pointed as she fires the first question. "Keanu, you have fame, fortune. You could live like a king, and yet you take the subway, donate millions, and seem to avoid luxury altogether. Does that really make a difference in the world?" A hush falls over the studio. Some audience members shift uncomfortably at the provocation. Others watch with rapt attention, eager to hear his response. But Keanu doesn't flinch. His posture remains relaxed, his expression unreadable. He takes a moment, then lifts his eyes to meet Vanessa's. A soft smile tugs at the corner of his lips. "Vanessa, have you ever thought about how many people feel invisible every day?" A weight settles over the room. The energy shifts. The audience, once buzzing with excitement, is now silent, contemplative. Some faces change, touched by the raw simplicity of his words. Vanessa raises an eyebrow, momentarily caught off guard. She expected resistance, deflection, anything but this quiet, undeniable truth. But she isn't done. Flipping to the next card, she tightens her grip, her eyes gleaming with something sharper, something ruthless. She still has her trump card, a question designed to shake Keanu to his core, to pull him into territory so personal, so painful, that he won't be able to sidestep it. The studio, once alive with energy, now simmers in tense silence. Vanessa leans in, ready to strike. What happens next will change everything. Keanu's last response leaves an unexpected mark. The energy in the studio shifts. Some audience members exchange glances while others sit still, hands clasped in their laps, silently reflecting on his words. But Vanessa Cross is not satisfied. She adjusts her posture with calculated elegance, crossing her legs as a slow, knowing smile tugs at the corners of her lips, yet her eyes remain merciless. With deliberate ease, she tosses the next question card onto the table. letting the tension stretch before finally striking. Keanu, you lost your fiancé, your baby, your best friend. Didn't that destroy you? In the end, isn't everything just pain? The impact is immediate. A hush falls over the studio. The audience stiffens, some covering their mouths in shock at the brutal bluntness.
Of the question. Others frown, visibly uncomfortable with Vanessa's callous approach. Keanu lowers his head slightly, his fingers interlacing over his knees. Silence expands, thick and unrelenting. The cameras zoom in, capturing the shift in his expression. His eyes, usually calm, warm, now hold something deeper. A sea of memories, of loss, of pain too vast for words. Vanessa watches, waiting. She wants hesitation, vulnerability, a crack she can exploit. But then, Keanu lifts his gaze. He inhales slowly, steady, and when he speaks, his voice is calm, unwavering. Pain never destroyed me. It taught me. It taught me that nothing is permanent, that every moment matters, and that true love never disappears. Silence lingers. Some audience members blink back tears. A woman in the front row discreetly dabs at her eyes with a tissue. Even those who don't fully know his story can feel the weight of his words. The camera shifts to Vanessa. For the first time, her expression falters. The sharp confidence in her smile fades, just for a fraction of a second, replaced by something else. Surprise? Regret? But Vanessa Cross is not one to waver. She straightens, regaining her composure, fingers gliding over the remaining question cards. Her next move is already set, and this time she aims to strike where Keanu least expects it. The studio still holds onto the weight of his words. The audience remains subdued, absorbing the depth of his response. But Vanessa has no intention of slowing down. She flips through her cards as if carefully considering her next question, but she already knows. Her next strike is planned, precise. This time she won't appeal to emotion. She'll challenge his relevance. Leaning forward slightly, she narrows her eyes. Her tone shifts, less aggressive, more calculated. A carefully laid trap. Keanu, you're over 50 now. Hollywood doesn't care about actors your age anymore. Don't you fear becoming irrelevant? The reaction is immediate. A ripple of whispers runs through the audience. Some shift in their seats, taken aback by the bluntness. Others frown, uneasy. Keanu, however, doesn't answer right away. He rubs his fingers together thoughtfully, his gaze drifting for a moment, lost in quiet contemplation. The studio holds its breath, and then he speaks. Keanu's gaze drifts, as if traveling to a distant place only he can see. Vanessa notices the pause and smiles inwardly. This is the moment she's been waiting for. Then, Keanu lifts his eyes and looks directly at her. His face remains calm, but his expression carries a weight no one expected. Vanessa, have you ever seen a sunset? The journalist blinks, momentarily thrown off. The audience shifts, puzzled by the unexpected response. Keanu continues, his voice soft but laden with meaning. A sunset is beautiful, but have you ever heard anyone call it irrelevant just because the night is coming? The studio erupts into applause. Cheers ripple through the crowd. Yes! Bravo, Keanu! You're amazing! For the first time, Vanessa loses control. Her rehearsed smile falters. Her confidence wavers, replaced by something unreadable. Surprise, perhaps even a flicker of respect. Keanu didn't retaliate with anger. He didn't fight fire with fire. He simply transformed her challenge into something undeniable, something true. And in doing so, the very structure of the interview begins to crumble. Vanessa takes a deep breath, forcing herself to regain composure. She glances down at the cards in her hand, realizing she needs a new strategy. Her attempts to unsettle him have failed. If Keanu doesn't fear irrelevance, perhaps there's another wound she can press, one buried even deeper. The studio is still buzzing from his last response. The audience, once divided between applause and murmurs, now watches him with a newfound sense of respect. He isn't just answering questions, he's disarming them, turning each provocation into something meaningful. But Vanessa Cross isn't finished. She can feel control slipping through her fingers, and it frustrates her. This is not how it's supposed to go. Her show isn't about uplifting moments. It's about pressure, about putting celebrities on the spot. She needs to regain her grip. Her fingers glide over the next question card, as if considering her words carefully. But she already knows what she wants to say. Leaning in slightly, her voice sharpens. Keanu, you grew up without a father. Your mother worked tirelessly to support you. Have you never felt angry about that? The tension in the room thickens instantly. The audience shifts uncomfortably. Some frown, recognizing the question for what it is, a direct attempt to unearth an old wound. Keanu, however, is unmoved. He expected this. He exhales slowly, his gaze drifting, not to Vanessa, but to something unseen, somewhere buried deep in memory. Then, after a moment of silence, he offers a small, thoughtful smile. My father taught me something valuable. Vanessa blinks. This wasn't the response she was expecting. Keanu meets her eyes and continues, his tone steady. He showed me the kind of man I didn't want to become. And my mother, she taught me how to survive. Silence grips the studio. A woman in the audience lets out a quiet sob. Others exchange glances, visibly moved by the simplicity and the depth of his words. For the first time, Vanessa hesitates. This was supposed to be a power play, an interview she controlled, but Keanu refuses to follow the script. He doesn't react with anger. He doesn't defend himself. Instead, he turns every question into a lesson, every challenge into wisdom. For a brief moment, Vanessa doesn't know what to say. She flips through the remaining cards, her fingers moving slowly over the paper. She can feel it now. Her strategy isn't working. And yet, she isn't ready to surrender. There's still one final move. She lifts her eyes to Keanu, and this time, something in her expression has changed. The sarcasm that once laced her words is gone. Now, there's something else, something darker. If his past wasn't enough, there's only one question left that might finally break through. Mortality. The air in the studio is electric, charged with an unspoken energy no one can quite describe. This is no longer just an interview. It's something else. Something deeper. Keanu has faced every question with an almost meditative calm, turning even the sharpest inquiries into reflections that leave the crowd in silent awe. But Vanessa Cross isn't done. Her mind races. Every calculated digit, every verbal trap, none of them have rattled him. She straightens her blazer, pulling her shoulders back. She is Vanessa Cross, a journalist known for breaking even the most composed guests. Her career was built on digging deeper, on pushing boundaries, on exposing vulnerabilities. And yet, sitting across from Keanu, she feels something unfamiliar creeping in. Frustration. Not because he refuses to play her game, but because he keeps changing it altogether. Her previous questions were meant to expose him, to strip away the mystique surrounding his kindness, his humility. Instead, he's left her with more questions than answers. This is her last chance. No more smirks, no more performative charm. She leans forward slightly, the movement precise, deliberate. Her voice, when it comes, is softer than before, but woven into it is something colder. Keanu, don't you feel fear? The words hang between them, suspended in the still air. Time waits for no one. Vanessa's voice is softer now, more measured. She watches him closely before delivering her final strike. Have you ever thought about what will happen when your time comes? A hush falls over the studio. This is different. This is no longer about Hollywood success, public perception, or box office numbers. It isn't about acting careers or relevance. This is about something no one can escape. Keanu tilts his head slightly, but he doesn't answer right away. He doesn't laugh it off. He doesn't deflect. Instead, he inhales deeply, his expression unreadable. For the first time in the interview, the silence stretches. Vanessa holds her breath. The audience leans forward. Then, finally, he speaks. Vanessa, do you know the difference between fear and faith? Vanessa blinks. For the first time, she's the one caught off guard. She presses her lips together. She had expected resistance, defensiveness, even a carefully rehearsed response. But this? She wasn't prepared for this. For the first time since the interview began, she has no quick rebuttal. Her gaze lowers to the cards in her hands. She flips through them, searching for something, anything, to regain control. But suddenly, the words on the cards feel hollow, meaningless. Everything she had planned, the angles, the traps, the psychological warfare of journalism, none of it seems relevant anymore, because this is no longer a battle.
Keanu has taken her carefully constructed chessboard and turned it into something else entirely, something bigger, something she wasn't ready for. She thought she was conducting an interview. Instead, Keanu has turned it into a conversation about life itself. And as she stares down at her notes, a realization settles over her. There's one last question she needs to ask. Something deeper, something final. She lifts her gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. And what if no one remembers you when you're gone? The weight of the question sinks into the air like a stone into deep water. The audience barely breathes. For the first time in the entire interview, Keanu Reeves does not answer immediately. The studio feels heavier now, charged with something unspoken. And what if no one remembers you when you're gone? It's the kind of question designed to unravel someone, to expose a hidden fear, to force them to confront their own insignificance. But Keanu doesn't flinch. Instead, he smiles softly. It's not a smirk. It's not the practiced smile of a Hollywood star. It's something else, something deeper. He takes a breath, steady as ever. The question isn't what they will remember about me, he says. He pauses, letting the words settle. The question is, what will they remember about you? A ripple moves through the audience. Some gasp softly. Others lean back, stunned by the unexpected turn. A few exchange glances as if realizing that, for the first time, Vanessa is the one on the receiving end of the question. The camera zooms in on her face. Vanessa Cross, the woman who built a career on breaking people down, suddenly looks lost. Her lips part, but no words come. Her fingers tighten around the cue cards in her lap, but she doesn't look at them. Because for the first time in this interview, perhaps for the first time in a long time, she has no prepared answer. The silence stretches. And then, something no one expects happens. A single tear slips down Vanessa's cheek. She doesn't wipe it away. The camera catches it, the way her throat moves as she swallows, the shift in her breathing, as if something heavy has just settled inside her. Keanu watches her, not with triumph, not with smugness, but with quiet understanding. He stands. The studio is silent now. The applause has faded. The excitement of the audience has been replaced by something else, something contemplative. People sit still. Some wipe away lingering tears. Others stare ahead, lost in thought. Vanessa remains in her chair, unmoving. The cue cards, once her weapon, her shield, lie abandoned on the table before her. She no longer needs them, or perhaps, for the first time, she realizes she never really did. The cameras are still rolling, the world is still watching, but Vanessa isn't thinking about the audience. She isn't thinking about ratings or headlines. She is thinking about herself. Keanu's words echo in her mind. The question isn't what they will remember about me. The question is, what will they remember about you? Her own reflection stares back at her from the glossy surface of the table. For years she built her career on sharp words, relentless questions, and the unwavering belief that exposing others made her powerful. But now, for the first time, she isn't so sure. The screen fades to black, and then a final message appears. Life is not about how long we live, but about the impact we leave behind. Soft music plays, gentle, reflective. The video ends. If this story moved you, like, comment, and share.